Loro da questa parte. I am working. Da San Paolo. Il settore San Paolo. Un altro settore, non i settori dei cardinali. Loro devono stare di qua. Paolo, prego, da questa parte, per favore. This way, please. Yeah, this way, please. This way, please.
Okay.
This way, please. Mister, this way, please.
There's a video that's been making the rounds on social media, and as usual, people are dragging it in all directions. It shows Peter Obi at the Vatican during the recent papal inauguration. In that clip, you can see him standing with a few others, including Cardinal Arinzi, and they're trying to enter a section of the basilica. Then, security at the door stops them. It looks like a quick conversation happens, and then the whole group, including Peter Obi, steps back. Now, a lot of people jumped on that video immediately and started pushing all sorts of narratives. Some said Peter Obi was bounced, others claimed he was disgraced, or that he was smuggled in by Cardinal Arinzi and still got rejected. You know the internet. Once they get something that fits the drama they want, it goes viral. But let's break it down properly, like adults. What really happened there is not disgrace. It's called protocol. From the way the Vatican works, especially during an event like a papal inauguration, there are several levels of clearance. The place is heavily organized, and certain entrances are strictly reserved for specific categories of people: heads of state, accredited diplomats, religious leaders with formal invitation tags, and so on. What the video likely shows is that Peter Obi, Cardinal Arinzi, and the others were approaching one of those highly restricted access points, maybe out of habit, maybe out of confusion, and were politely told by security that they needed to go through another route. That's it. There was no shouting, no rough handling, no embarrassment. Just, this way is not for you. Please go around. Anyone who has attended official international ceremonies, especially in places like the Vatican, the UN, or even the White House, knows this is normal. These places are strict about movement. Even if you're a well-known guest, if you don't have the right pass for a specific entrance, you'll be told to use another one. It's not about humiliation, it's about order. And you could see from the clip that Peter Obi wasn't trying to argue or force anything. He respected the instruction. Cardinal Arinze, who's a highly respected figure in the Catholic Church, also didn't make a scene. They all simply moved back and followed the proper direction. But unfortunately, many Nigerians took that 15-second video and twisted it into a moment of disgrace. Some even made it political. And that's the real shame here. Not the clip, but how quick we are to turn every public moment into social media ammunition. Peter Obi himself has since addressed the whole thing in a calm, clear statement. He said he attended the papal inauguration, just like he's done for other international religious or moral ceremonies in the past, not as a political act, but as a spiritual one. He made it clear that after the inaugural mass, he did not attend the private papal audience, which was reserved strictly for sitting heads of state and accredited diplomats. And that's the key detail a lot of people are missing. The Vatican separates the public mass from the private audience. The public mass is open to all invited guests, but the personal meet and greet with the Pope, that's strictly protocol-based. You don't just walk in, no matter who you are. Peter Obi acknowledged that. He said that honor was reserved for heads of state and accredited diplomats. So he didn't push himself where he wasn't supposed to go. That's not disgrace, that's respect. Now, some people also started comparing him to Tinubu, saying Tinubu got in to see the Pope and Obi didn't. But let's be fair here. Tinubu is the current president. Whether you support him or not, that comes with certain diplomatic access. He was officially recognized as the Nigerian head of state, and so yes, he had a one-on-one audience with the Pope, just like other sitting presidents. So this whole drama about Obi not being allowed inside is pointless. It's just social media noise. But here's where the conversation starts to shift to something more serious. Peter Obi is already back in Nigeria. Tinubu is not. Peter Obi flew commercial, like he usually does, and returned quietly to the country. Meanwhile, the president, who traveled on a presidential jet with a full entourage, is still out of the country as we speak. And this is what people should actually be we talking about? Not who was told to use another door, but why the leader of a country that's currently battling inflation, fuel scarcity, and insecurity is still on a European tour, days after the main event is over. Because while social media was busy analyzing who shook hands and who didn't, who stood outside a door and who got waved in, Peter Obi quietly boarded a commercial flight, came back home, and immediately started speaking about real issues. Within hours of landing in Abuja, Obi was already addressing the crisis in Borno State. He didn't wait for headlines. He didn't send it through a spokesperson. He used his own voice and said what needed to be said. That's leadership, not because of position, but because of responsibility. In his statement, he talked about what's happening in the Marte area of Borno, a place currently under serious threat from insurgents. He called it not just a local emergency, but a national alarm bell. He praised Governor Babagana Zulum for showing the kind of leadership that Nigeria needs. A man who, despite threats, chose to spend the night with his people under siege. But the actual sitting president of Nigeria, who went with a private jet, with aides, security, and likely state resources, is still out there while the country is in crisis. And I don't care who you support, APC, LP, PDP, this kind of thing should concern you as a Nigerian, because it says a lot about the mindset of leadership we've normalized. We've reached a point where we're more offended by a man being told to use the other door than we are by a president who disappears during national emergencies, and some people even defend it. They say, he's the president, he can travel. Yes, of course he can. But leadership is not about luxury. It's about responsibility. Timing matters. Presence matters. This is not the first time we're seeing this kind of behavior from African leaders, flying out for summits and ceremonies, staying back long after the program is over, while their people suffer back home. Meanwhile, foreign leaders who attend the same events are usually on a plane back to their countries the next day. Why? Because their systems hold them accountable. They understand that their primary duty is at home, not posing for photos abroad. But here, we've created a culture where politicians crave Western approval. They want to be seen at international events. They want to be photographed shaking hands with foreign leaders. They want a trend, not for results, but for clout. And many times, they don't even understand the message of the event they're attending. They're there for optics. Meanwhile, back home, salaries are unpaid, hospitals are struggling, and that's why Obi's response matters. Because instead of chasing the handshake, he focused on the message. He quoted the Pope's homily. He highlighted the urgent need to fight poverty, invest in education, and uplift the poor. He even reminded us that ceremonies like this aren't about who got the front row seat. They're about what lessons you're taking home. He said, and I quote, "The deeper meaning of the gathering lies not in ceremonial gestures, but in whether those present internalize the message and will return with the resolve to act." That's a leader speaking, not a showman, a leader. Now let's be honest, this kind of maturity is rare in Nigerian politics. Most politicians would have used that moment to take jabs, play victim, or turn it into some tribal or political agenda. Obi didn't. He focused on the spiritual message. He acknowledged protocol. He moved on. And look, nobody's saying Peter Obi is perfect. Nobody is above criticism, but we have to give credit where it's due. His approach to this entire episode was calm, respectful, and dignified, even when social media was going crazy with insults and mockery. Meanwhile, the same people laughing at him have said almost nothing about Tinubu's extended stay in Europe, even as the country burns. It makes you wonder, what exactly do we value as a people? We shame the one who follows rules quietly, and we worship the one who abuses power loudly. We mock humility and celebrate access. But here's the thing, access means nothing if you have no impact. And that's the real takeaway from all of this. Because at the end of the day, whether it's a handshake with the Pope or a private seat at the Vatican, the question Nigerians should be asking is simple. What did our leaders bring back? What lesson are they implementing? How are they using those international experiences to serve the people better? If the answer is nothing, then what was the point? All we're left with is headlines and photos. And as we all know, headlines don't fix broken systems. Photos don't reduce inflation. And social media applause doesn't build roads, schools, or hospitals.